he went to the doctor and he had heavy lead in him. Well, she couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and I couldn't either, but I thought it was coming from my water, but no, it's coming from this air fryer right here.
Pete's Patrol here, and this is actually a very interesting video because there is some data that does show that air fryers may release some particulates and other types of chemicals that are much higher in concentration than regular frying or baking in the kitchen. Now, I'm sure you've heard in the news about companies like Stanley and Ninja with regard to having a lot of lead in their products. And lead poisoning is a thing in the pediatric population, so let's talk about it. So typically lead poisoning usually were found in homes greater than 1970s with lead piping or lead paint, but now you can find lead in a lot of electronics and home appliances. What does lead poisoning look like? Well, it can look like other conditions that sometimes you may see on TikTok and Instagram, such as autism. So what does that mean? It can look like delayed milestones, so not able to talk on time or walk on time. And it's this slow progressive decline with constant and consistent lead exposure. You may see headaches, decreased appetite, as well as coordination issues like balance. And sometimes if the toxicity levels are very, very high, you may see children having alternating levels of consciousness, seizures, and significant vomiting as well. So you can imagine children can look very, very sick, especially if they're being constantly exposed to a poison. This is why it's very important to talk to your pediatrician about milestones, whether your children are meeting them or not meeting them, and also consider exposures like smoking, like drugs, like alcohol, environmental exposures as well, such as the age of your home, where your home is located, water sources, lead sources, because all of these can have an effect medically on your child. I think it would be harm to say that things can cause autism when evidence has shown that they don't cause autism, but it's also important to rule out the other things like environmental exposures, like genetic conditions, like neglect. Your pediatrician then will order appropriate testing and counsel accordingly. And if things like lead poisoning do occur, they do need to be treated medically. And if it's not lead poisoning, then we have to look into our toolbox and find what might be causing some of your kids' issues.